Thank you, Almas. And good evening, everybody. Thank you for making the time to join us today. And I've been looking at the comments as well from all over the country. And it's really heartening to see this desire to make this work. People have already said about how we've had a roller coaster. As a mom, I describe it as birth pangs. It's very, very painful. It's not always how you plan things, but hopefully the outcome will all be worth it. But that's going to be down to all of us together. And we've come through the founding conference, and yes, we still have at least 60,000 people who are desperate to come together to help to make sure that we have a clear anti-austerity, pro-peace party in this country. And I just want to quickly mention the Greens. I'm actually really glad to see the success of the Greens. It shows again that this need for an alternative is real. I think British politics will be stronger the more parties we have which advocate for the working class, which advocate for the environment, which advocate for peace. I don't feel threatened. I see it as a complementary and that's actually as a reaffirmment of what we need to do. The billionaires have all the other mainstream parties to advocate for them. Just imagine the Question Time panel on BBC. It's always one isolated voice, if that we know that we cheer on. So for me, no matter what happens, we should go together in a spirit of collaboration and not one of feeling threatened or the need to put them down. If anything, we want to keep nudging them along. Because for me, the real prize is the Overton window in British politics. Already, I believe that because of the kind of campaigning that we've already done around the two-child benefit cap, the fact that we're calling out the scandal of the winter fuel payments, we've seen the shift in the Labour Party, and having the Green Party also advocate for that, I think, has been important. And our huge pro-Palestine movement, despite all the lobbying efforts of very, very powerful forces, the British public is on our side. And that has been no mean feat. Of course, it saddens me that the thing that we want, a real end to the war, a genuine ceasefire, we are not there yet. And that's why we have to still keep pushing, despite all the efforts to silence us. And the wars abroad actually have had a very material impact on our country as well. We've seen now the pulling back on jury trials, we've seen increased surveillance, we've seen people being criminalised purely for saying we don't want genocide. Things even 20 years ago when I started, became politicised through the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, we were predicting then, we said these wars abroad will start having an impact on our civil liberties here. And we've seen how that's materialized. We predicted the racist backlash and how Muslims in this country would be demonized. And that has happened. And the scale has been horrendous. My kids don't know a time when Muslims have not been demonized. I have boys, to this day, I worry when they walk out with a backpack. This is the reality. And so again, the anti-racist struggle is so, so important. And we know how people's fears and real material concerns, the cost of living is real. And my plea in the meeting tonight would be, let's focus on what matters to most people out there. We've heard the term 80-20. Whatever the percentage is, it cannot be beyond our wit to identify those things that we have in common, those things that matter most. And yes, there may be things that matter to me personally, I'd love to see also on the manifesto and people get behind. But I think I can live without 100% of my desire if it means we can get 78% of a collective desire, because that is what the establishment relies on to keep us divided. We know they're brilliant at it. We know that's all they've got because our solidarity is what they fear. And they're masters at it. And let us not have our own goals. And that's, I'll be honest, I've been frustrated. I've been saddened to see, some of this isn't about the right wing attacking us. It's about what we've done to ourselves. And sometimes we've kind of fitted the very caricatures that people have of us. It's kind of embarrassing. But there's a huge responsibility. We cannot lose our eye on the prize. Our real enemy is this Labour government, which has been more authoritarian than even the last Tory government, which has pushed on the austerity agenda and has overseen genocide in Palestine. Our real enemy is Farage and the Reform Party, which has ascendancy which we cannot ignore. Before, I would have said, yeah, it's bad. Fascism is on the rise. But if somebody had said to me that there is a real prospect that Nigel Farage will be Prime Minister of this country, it would have been one of those fringe arguments. But poll after poll after poll has shown that this is a reality that is facing us. And if that hasn't thrown cold water on all the people who think that it's really important to fight on what the differences are between us, then I really don't know what will. So now that we have the opportunity, now that the founding conference has happened, I think Michael's done the right thing. I'm not going to repeat everything. The 5 points he came out with as possible unifying factors, I absolutely endorse. We have to be people who refuse to punch down, but we also have to be people, I think, who promote a learning culture, a respect culture, a culture where we can talk about differences, a culture where we have curiosity, one that is not a cancel culture. We do not want to mimic the kind of right-wing wedge approach. I think that would be a disaster. I think this whole narrative around social conservatism has been very, very dangerous. I'm old enough. You introduced me, Almas, as somebody who was part of the initial Stop the War coalition establishment. We had those arguments then when visible Muslims started to ally with the left and the left started to ally with Muslims. It was like, oh, this cannot happen. There can never be a common cause. And of course, we proved that was an absolute lie, and it's been an absolute strength. And we cannot be going over that old ground. We know where the right wing is already on Islamophobia. And this party has to be one where people feel welcome, where even I would say welcome racists as members if it means we can win an argument. I'm not saying welcome racists in order to advocate what they say. We have to be able to talk to people. We have to be open. We have to relate to people. Farage is winning because he has identified material issues, but then scapegoated Muslims, asylum seekers, and migrants. His audience actually is our audience, and we shouldn't be afraid or apologetic to acknowledge that. Our working class is multiracial. We cannot fall into that exact same divide, us and them. And it takes real effort. It takes emotional maturity. It takes political will. It takes determination. It takes swallowing some difficult stuff to do this in reality. And I know there's been some independent councils already. I've stood as a left of Labour councillor, as well as going for MP, knocking on those doors, weaning people away from a mainstream party is not an easy endeavour. I know to our audience it's all obvious, we need a wealth tax. We need to ensure that we have no privatisation of the NHS. I work in the NHS. I've seen what privatisation has done. I've seen what not giving our NHS the actual public money it deserves, what it does. I'm looking with horror at more PFI being imposed in the NHS. I know that life expectancy, literally a decade off your life, goes in the sixth richest country in the world if you live in a poor area, if you are disabled. If you're LGBT, you are twice as likely to have mental health issues because we live in a very divisive society which under this particular economic system emphasizes competition and punching down. We want a society which stands for the very opposite. I love quoting Tony Benn. He had a bit of a conversion later on in life, by the way. So again, when people say, well, so and so said this in 2010 and now they're saying something different, I'm all for people converting. He said socialism is the flame of anger against injustice, and it's the flame of hope that you can build a better world. So let's be angry about what's wrong, but let us also be the people who build that hope and who embody those values of hope, inclusivity, and compassion. And I think what this call is about saying, let's identify that 80%. Let's be clear what that is, and make sure that we can really pull our party into that positive vision, a constructive vision, and not some of the factionalism that we've seen, which, I think it's important to call out, it's important to identify. Of course, there's been some genuine debates. We don't, say anything which is a bit uncomfortable. We say we don't want. Part of it's about living with discomfort. It's about being able to have differences and not falling out forever over them, but moving along in that positive trajectory. Our country is relying on us. And I say as a visible Muslim, we cannot have our Muslim brothers and sisters also feel that this party is not a place for them. The backbone, I believe, will be a coalition. I'm saying everybody should be welcome, but from an electoral point of view, from a hard numbers point of view, we need Muslim communities. We need to appeal to young people. We need those graduates who've got that debt over their head, who are struggling to rent, never mind ever able to buy their own home. I think they're our natural constituency. All the people the Green Party are already reaching out to, but the Red Wall, where we know there's been deindustrialisation, where there's been a lack of hope, where the Labour Party has just taken everybody for granted. It's been the same with ethnic minorities. People thought they've got nowhere else to go. They were complacent, so they only pandered. They only pandered to the super rich. They pandered to the warmongers, thinking these people have got nowhere else to go. Right now, British politics is in a complete flux. the fact that we're seeing what's happening with reform, the fact the Labour vote is collapsing, the fact the Tory vote is collapsing. And what we need is to pull on the Overton window of British politics is an absolutely clear, principled, I would say socialist in the way I understand socialism. As a Muslim, I look at the Quran as my inspiration. Sayings like stand up for justice, even if it goes against yourself or your family, be they rich or poor, that we are grounded in something which is bigger, beyond than just our own individual needs, because we believe in a wider collective. We believe in the best of humanity. We're not here just to trade in despair and negativity. It's actually the very opposite, that we're here to empower each other, take succor from solidarity with each other, but absolutely offer that as something positive for this country. Thank you.